Okay, so one of my favourite contemporary composers, harmonists and guitarists is Kurt Rosenwinkel. I think he has a very distinctive approach to harmony that I'd like to talk a little bit about today. Obviously this is only going to cover a small part of his style, but I'd like to talk about his composition Under It All, which is a beautiful tune from his album Star of Jupiter. I'll also attach a link to this beautiful orchestral version he did in Knockdown. And I'd like to talk about it from the perspective of how it takes some elements of traditional classical harmony and sort of just tweaks them slightly. It reminds me a lot of Baroque compositions in that it's based on this descending bass line. So we start on a D sharp, we go stepwise down, and interestingly that scale is actually the Lydian mode. It's not E major. Start D sharp, sort of A, which you might expect. It's A sharp. Although the tune feels very focused in E major. It doesn't feel like it's in the Lydian mode, even though it's got that A sharp in it. This sort of scalar aspect of it reminds me a lot of Baroque compositions with some kind of sort of thorough bass or ground bass, so things, you know, this kind of stuff, right? It seems to me to be in the same vein as that, but a sort of contemporary jazz version of it. I know that Kurt, obviously, like all of us, is obsessed with Bach, and I'd like to dig into a little bit the sort of contrapuntal aspects of this today and how it relates to that traditional kind of harmony. So I'm just going to play you the bass and the melody as best as I can together to give you an idea of how they relate. So. With a variation. Okay, really nice. We'll just have a look at the counterpoint framework. So I'm going to simplify the melody down slightly and talk you through the intervals. So starting on that D sharp again with the bass. 10th, 10th, 6th, octave. Okay, so a lot of tenths in this. Then we've got these interesting parallel 11ths. Not unknown to, say, Bach. You can see an example of parallel 11ths in his Saraband, the one that all the guitar players play, you know the one. I put a BWV up on the screen when I can remember what it is. 11, 10. 10th again, 7th, 6th, 10th, 10th, 11th, and 12th, which is compound 5th, right? That's that sort of little pedal tone against descending bass. It reminds me a bit of one note samba. The counterpoint works really nicely, I think. That A sharp is quite interesting. I think it kind of almost sounds like it's forming a sort of inverted 2-5-1 into the G sharp chord. So we've almost got like a sort of implied semi-modulation within the bass line. So I'll just play through a solo arrangement of the A section before talking about the chords that he uses, just so you can hear it. then it's this. Again. So what's he using there? Well, it's a beautiful use here on the 7th degree of what I think it was the contemporary jazz voicing, which is the -7 sharp 5 or -7 flat 6, which can also be thought of as being an inverted B major add 9 with a D sharp on the bass. The second chord, minor 7th, and then the straight. You get the minor 11th there. Sus chord, minor 11th, and then major. So a lot of minor 11ths actually in that first bit. And then that chord again, the magic chord, A/C sharp. And this can either be thought of as being a E major 7 over the B bass note, or you can also think of it as being a first inversion G sharp minor, so G sharp minor over B. Which resolves beautifully to that A sharp minor 7th, and then we get that. It's actually just a straight G sharp minor 7th, and then F sharp minor 11th, and then E major. How does this relate to conventional harmony? We can see that there's a tendency to use more, obviously colour notes, so this is adding a note for what you might normally use. That's what we might normally use, and we add in this 7th as well. And then the next chord, rather than using what I would think is more conventional, which is the A/C sharp, we use an unresolved D sharp minor 7th, which is much more jazz, obviously. And then these 11th chords. So a lot more minor 7ths and minor 11ths, and also this enriched first inversion major chord with the added 9th or the 7th, depending on how you look at it. I think it might be helpful to compare this to a more traditional vanilla rule of the octave, which is basically the same thing. We're going down the scale, that's why it's called a rule of the octave. We're going to start from E in this case, and go to E, right? So these are the chords that we might use. Playing in more of an 18th century style. You can see that actually they're not very different from what Kurt's using. One main difference is that we tend to suspend the sound of the dominant. So instead of using this with a leading tone, we just use a F sharp 11th or an F sharp minor 11th, sorry, or an F sharp minor 7th. We play more conventionally, we might use that, so 2-5-1 for instance. No, we just play the two chords essentially. Okay, so another thing is we've got those enriched chords that I mentioned. We tend not to worry so much about resolving dissonance. It is after all jazz, so I can contrast the conventional rule of the octave with something that I think it would be a Kurt Rosenwinkel rule of the octave. So the differences are, major's the same. You have the B add 9/D sharp with the D sharp minor 7 sharp 5 chord. C sharp minor 7th, or we could use that one as well, the A sharp over C sharp. Sorry, A over C sharp, should I say. G sharp minor over B. And then we're going to move to that A sharp minor 7th. we go to A sharp minor 6, it feels like we're using a 2-5-1 to get to G sharp, and then that suspended dominant sound, and then back to the 1. So that 2 minus 11, which could also be that, right? So I'm calling it suspended. I'll just play them back to back so you can hear the difference. Okay, and the Kurt Rosenwinkel version. Anyway, I hope you found that interesting. Thanks for watching. Let me know any comments you have below.